Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Headed Home podcast. We are...
What is up?
Hi, babe. We're your hosts, Jen and Andrew, and we have a really special guest today, Leslie MacRossie. She is a successful real estate entrepreneur and the owner of Lark Realty Group. Leslie's journey in real estate is pretty interesting to me, and I actually want to ask her some questions here shortly about that. But started early because she had some exposure to the industry with her father, who was a commercial developer in Texas. Then Leslie pursued a different path, working in medical sales for nearly 2 decades before making the switch to residential real estate. And her success in the industry has really come from her passion in helping clients, and I think is one of the biggest assets that Leslie has in her business. From first-time home buyers to downsizers, and advocating for her Wash Park neighborhood in Denver, where she lives, and I'm so jealous. And I think she... Maybe you can get a house there, babe. Leslie, you know someone?
I know somebody.
Leslie's entrepreneurial spirit led her to opening her own brokerage, where her philosophy is super simple, and I love it so much. Her clients come first. So, Leslie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jen and Andrew. I'm super happy to be here. So, thank you for that.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. And we've worked together a couple times now, and I want to start here. I think that something that I've noticed about you as a real estate agent that sets you apart from other agents that I've worked with is just you seem to be able to build really, really tight, close-knit connections with your clients. So why don't we start there? Tell us about how you do that.
How do I do that? I think it probably stems all the way back to when I made the transition to go into real estate. I was in medical sales for 20 years, as you mentioned. And as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, one of my very best friends said, "You like people. You have a genuine interest in people. So maybe you should go into real estate because you also just love to help and be needed." And so I thought, well, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about going there before. So I think just having that genuine interest resonates with people. And I only work on referral. I haven't had to advertise or anything like that. And so I feel super fortunate. And it's weird because you have these relationships, right, with your buyers and sellers, and I'm all up in them. With my sellers, I'm at the house all the time prepping. With my buyers, we're constantly texting or going out and doing things. You have this close relationship, and then the sale and the transaction happens, and then you break up. So I get sad. I literally get sad. So I do client appreciation parties frequently. I absolutely make a concerted effort to do happy hours, dinners, and things like that, and really stay in touch. Because I have amazing clients who've come into my life, and really they've all turned into friends.
Well, that's awesome. And you can tell. And I think that, and we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, there's a lot of real estate agents and loan officers and other sales professionals that listen in. And yeah, especially in real estate, you spend so much time with your client in that, 30, 60, 90-day window of going under contract and buying a house or selling a house. And then it's done, and they kind of tend to forget about you just because everyone's busy. But I think that's great that you put that effort into just building that long-term relationship is probably a big reason why you're successful in real estate.
Yes, I think so. And again, I think I just attract in the right people. And so it's fun, and it's always a fun party, whether I'm doing something like renting out a suite at Coors Field for a Rockies game, or everyone's favorite, I'll have to do it again this year, is I have a band that comes and plays on a flatbed truck in my front yard. And
nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Super fun. He makes little bento boxes of food, and people just bring blankets and chairs. And literally people are like, okay, when are we having the next party? And everyone really enjoys it. And they all enjoy one another. And I love connecting my clients, and I'm kind of matchmaking friendships that way too. If I know that someone's moving out here, for example, in certain age and age of children, things like that, I'll connect them, and they get their own little friend group going. So that's been fun to see as well.
That's awesome. So what are some of the parallels? Because I know you did medical sales for 20 years, which is a really long time. What are some of the parallels of things that you took from that business that have really made you so successful in like as a real estate agent?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thank you. I mean, basically, when I worked in corporate, I was sales and marketing, contract negotiations. I mean, that was really a true sales position. I sold diagnostic ultrasound equipment to hospitals and to private practice physicians. So
Hmm.
I had to fight for my budget, right? Somebody's either going to get a new radiology machine or a new ultrasound machine. So I had
Yeah.
to fight for that. But I think, part of my skill set from there was just coming into real estate with a different perspective. I was always in process improvement corporate wise. And so I look at that in my real estate business. How can I improve this process? How can I level up? Because, it's an interesting profession that anybody can get into it with just a couple hundred hours of studying. But just getting your license doesn't naturally make you a professional in this industry. So it's really important to me to continue to level up, look on how I can improve processes for both myself, the brokerage agents, and make a client experience. That's the most important thing to me is I have both a buyer experience and a seller experience that I think really sets me apart from others.
That's awesome. What, when you're thinking about like, what are some additional things that make agents successful or are vital to like having a successful business? I know you mentioned like a really good client experience, and I feel like so many people don't talk about that enough, that like it's so, I mean, business is relationships, right? Like everything that you do, relationships are vital. But, you also mentioned like getting a little bit better every day and just making sure that you're trying to always like level up and think of how you can get a little bit better in your business. Are there any other things that you do in your business that you think, set you apart from other people, whether that's like, a skill set or something that you do within your process with buyers?
Yeah, I think part of my buyer experience is I work with a lot of people who are relocating to Colorado. And so I have a driver service that I hire. So I don't know them yet. And so it's kind of awkward to have them in your car or to have them following you. So I just hire my car service and he will pick us up from whatever location. I will schedule, 6 or 7 homes, schedule a lunch, and we just spend time together, getting to know one another, seeing kind of what their aesthetic is, showing them different neighborhoods and things like that. And so I think that just kind of
That's cool.
sets the tone for the way the rest of that experience is going to go. And
I
everybody
love
does that.
I love that. Can you schedule a car service to pick my daughter up at dance 3 times a week?
Oh my goodness.
I keep
It's a time
waiting. I keep waiting for someone to figure out the whole like Uber thing, but
For kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
somehow, I don't know. Anyway,
I did hear that I think that's in existence, maybe in Texas. And it was a group of moms, and I think it was called Pink something or other. This was years ago, but I thought, what a fantastic idea, because driving kids around when you've got, there's basketball, you guys have a lot.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
just
a lot
waiting,
of driving.
waiting. Maybe I'll start a company.
I think it's great. You should do that. Add that to your list because I'm sure there's lots of time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, added.
Back to the client experience and just customer service. I just want to just reiterate that it's so huge too for reputation, like online reviews now. It's such a competitive industry that we're in, and everyone's just got access to so much information, so a lot of clients that I talk to, they're like, oh, I looked you up online. And I just think that's another like really motivating factor to just like pour into that client experience, deliver the best possible customer service that you can do, because then even if you're not getting referred by those clients that close with you, at least they're giving a good review, which is boosting up your reputation online.
Yeah. And I sometimes they make me cry. So to give an example of the seller experience, I'm really, and this also comes from my medical sales background, I'm really a solution provider. I had the most amazing mentor when I started corporate when I was 23. And she said, I'm happy to help, with whatever your situation is, but do not come in and talk to me unless you have 3 solutions. They could be off the wall, totally not even viable, or it could work, but come to me and then let's work through it. And so I think that's always kind of set my mindset too for any client interaction that I'm having. And so one in particular was with a group of sellers, and they had like 2 little ones under the age of 4. They had 2 dogs. There was a lot going on in this house. And so, as you know, it's so hard to get a home on the market and keep it show ready. It just is super frustrating. And so I asked if there was any way that they could move out of town ahead of time so that I could just come in and do my thing. And they're like, oh, we hadn't thought about that. So they did. And so we made that plan for them to move out of town. And then I swooped in with my team, which was, we need to change these light fixtures and modernize them a little bit. It was painting, it was getting the carpets done, it was getting the staging done, and just keeping them abreast of the situation every time I was there. And they just knew that I handled it all for them. I have a great team of people who will offload any extra furniture items that you don't need. I have a team who comes in and packs up for you to put things in your pod, donate to nonprofits, whatever it might be, and really try to offer a one-call handles it all solution. And so to see reviews come back with how I made an impact and provided a solution for them so that they didn't have to do more work, because that's what I've heard is that when I go in and interview for some of these listing appointments, they might talk to an agent who says, here are the things you need to do. Here's a sheet of paper. Let me know when you're done. So overwhelming. Yeah. I know I get my house ready in like 3 months. There's so much to do. So if you can come in and be a solution provider, it makes a big difference. I've also had sellers start literally crying in front of me because they felt a big weight lifted off of them. So those are the things that keep me going. I just, I feel super grateful to be able to help.
I love that phrase, solution provider. Like that's like a really cool way of thinking about how you are supporting and helping the people that you work with.
100%. And I always find it's part of the process improvement, right? That I also had to do. There's always a solution. You just have to look for it. And I don't really take no for an answer, and we just have to figure it out. And sometimes it's good to have a different perspective. So I'm happy to help people.
Well, and I think a lot of times too, people don't know what the problem is. They don't know what the solution is, So I think just coming into it with the mindset of delivering those and having those ready, I think is important. That's awesome that you do that. One of the questions I like to ask is, especially for you, making that transition from another industry, getting into real estate, it's super competitive. You've got people that, have neighborhoods already, on lock with farming, and you've got people in the industry that have been doing it a long time. It's competitive. So tell me about right when you made that jump into real estate, were there stumbling blocks right off the bat? Did you have success right off the bat? Tell us about the first, the first jump in and how you dealt with that.
Oh my goodness. And you're so right. There's a lot. There's 25,000 agents in the Denver metro area. But I always, I had bad experiences with real estate. Starting in California, my ex-husband and I had, we were going to sell our home. We bought a brand new build. And so we were going to sell our home. And the agent was like, I'm really busy. I can't do an open house for you. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So I did my own open house and I marketed my own property in my neighborhood. Because I was like, I'm not going to do this. What an agent. It was not a good experience. And then I had another bad experience when we moved to Colorado and we were selling that marital home because we were getting divorced. The agent had so many typos in the contract. And earnest money, he put in $1,000 when at the time we had asked for $10,000. And I thought, gosh, if this person is making typos in a contract, this legal document that's, super important in this transaction, what else is he making mistakes on? And so that was bad. And then followed up when I bought my first home by myself post-divorce. It was an awful experience, awful. So I've had where I was just completely neglected. The agents I was working with were kind of, considered high-end agents that are still in the area. And they treated me terribly and didn't hold my hand, didn't explain anything to me. I went and got my cashier's check to go make my purchase. And I remember sitting in the parking lot at the bank crying because it was the biggest amount of money I'd ever had in my life. And no one was going to walk me through that process. And they didn't show up at closing. About 10 days later, after I closed, I got a fruit basket on my front door that said, thanks for your business. So
wow.
3 bad experiences taught me it doesn't take much to be extraordinary, I think, in real estate. So,
Oh man.
I think I was a little nervous. And I think one of my biggest mistakes was, oh my gosh, I was following every shiny object. And there's so many companies who prey, I think, on realtors and scare them that I was signing up for Zillow leads, for example, for 6 months. And that was the biggest waste of money I'd ever had in my life. Because then I learned and just really felt very strongly that you do business with those that you know, like, and trust. It doesn't matter what your logo is. It doesn't matter if you're at a big box brokerage. It's the person. And so I just focused on people that I knew who already, liked me and essentially trusted me for different reasons. So that's how it started.
If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it's always to trust yourself because I don't know, it's listening to other people who are around you. Maybe it's also that just kind of getting other people's perspectives or opinions of yourself and then starting to learn how to trust yourself, which I've made some little mistakes here and there over the last 2 years, just listening to different people and thinking I needed to take my business in a different way. And then realizing that's not right. I need to listen inside and be quiet. I think that's part of the book that I'm going to be reading next month when I go on vacation, of getting in touch and listening to myself.
I love that. I think that's definitely something that I think happens, especially when you are, producing at a high level and you start to, get really good at something and you start looking around at all these people that are, maybe leveling up it or, higher up than you are in, some situation with your goals. Right. And so you look at them and you're like, oh, this is what they're doing. Like, this is my next step, or this is, and I mean, we talk about this a lot where you have to be like really thoughtful and intentional with like what your values are and like what you actually want your life to look like, because there are lots of shiny objects, and there are things that are going to pop up where you're going to think, oh, I have to do this next. And it's like, wait a second, like getting very clear on what your roadmap is.
Right.
It's really hard.
No, I agree. And I do need to kind of rethink what I want my future to look at, but it is, it's staying in your lane and you have to kind of put on those blinders and like you said, Jen, not look at what everyone else is doing and thinking that just because, Sally's doing this or Joe's doing that, I need to do it. So you have to just do what works for yourself. And it's going to be inauthentic, right? If you don't do things that are innately in you.
Yeah. And you have to be like in tune with your business and what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also think one thing that we talk about too is there's lots of things that you can do in your business to increase your business, right? Or increase production or like get new clients. And we had this thing this morning, like I'll send stuff to him but back and forth. And it's almost like we have to check ourselves sometimes. Cause it's like, hey, we made a commitment to do these things very well this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not gonna like stray off and do like these 10 other things of ideas that we heard about. Like, we're gonna focus very intentionally and specifically on those. And that does happen all the time. I'm sure with real estate too, is like, there's lots of great unlimited ideas that you could have.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. That rabbit hole. And I love that you just said that, because I was going to try and do that as well, is just focus in these 3 little areas. But and you guys being in the same industry of working with people and client retention and referrals. And so it's always easy to get distracted. But I think what you guys have dialed into is inspiring me as well on, a client gift approach. Again, that's part of this buyer experience, right? Is acknowledging that milestone as they're buying a home. And
right.
My special areas is single female home buyers. I happen to be blessed to have a lot of them. And one of our clients, Andrew, said, I went and dropped off my earnest money and there wasn't any confetti. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I sent her a text with the confetti thing to fly out. She's like, yay, thank you.
There you go.
Like, it was resonating for me, right? I'm like telling you the steps of what you need to go do. and the person is having this monumental experience as you're going there. So to follow it up with gift boxes and things like that to acknowledge it along the way is huge.
Yeah, I agree. It's special. And anytime I go through and we're buying a house, it reminds me like, God, this is such a big emotional experience, and it's also like, it's like, it's an identity shift too, when you move, and it's a big investment. And so, yeah, I think any way that we can make that, that process just special and let them know that we understand how important it is. I think that's big. And I think that's a good way to kind of build that relationship long-term too.
Because it's that Maya Angelou quote, right? People aren't going to remember what you did for them, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that we work a lot on is like systems and processes. And I know it's like a never ending, like how can we make things better? Do you have anything in your business that you feel like you've really honed in on as far as like streamlining a system or a process? Or is there something that you're focusing on this year to make a little bit better?
I wish I was like that disciplined. I admire people who are like that and can set the goals and then drill down on everything that needs to happen. I mean, the processes I have are there for checklists of like how you put in your listing into the MLS and things like that. But no, like even my social media is kind of whenever I feel like posting or recording a video or something like that. So I did just partner up because it's really important. No, it's already March, but it's important for me to get this down for 2023. I did partner up with a company and we are in the process of putting together kind of the marketing strategy and the steps for both growing Lark as a brokerage and just growing my brand itself. So I'm making big steps and going back and just cutting out all these extra costs that I have because it's amazing how many apps you can like download on your phone for $3.99 here, $4.99 there. I am sure I can find probably $1,000 a month that I spend on things that I don't use. And so I'm going to use that money to hire an assistant. So that's going to be huge for me. She'll be a licensed buyer's agent to also help with my showings and then just do a lot of the administrative work that I find myself doing way too frequently. And it'd be good to offload that to someone so I can think at a more high level.
Yeah. No, I honestly think that's huge. And I mean, that's something like we've done with your team. Like you have people that do, I think it opens your capacity to like sit and think about like, how can I get better at my business? Because if you are just in the paperwork all day or you're following up on you just don't have the capacity to make your business better.
No, I mean, today, for example, I bought 40 boxes of Girl Scout cookies to do as pop buys, but like to take the time and go sit in Canva and make a tag is exhausting and not worth my time. Does it?
Yes. No, totally.
I want to grow and help my client experience be better. So I said, here's some examples, go make it happen. Wow. It just feels like such a huge relief for me too.
I love it. And I think that's really the only way to like really scale your business is to look at your time and say like, okay, if I'm doing all of these things in my day that like, where I could actually be like getting more business or out getting more business. I mean, that's really how you scale.
And nurturing those relationships. I'd much rather go take someone to happy hour for 2 hours and chat with my clients than go down the Canva rabbit hole.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That rabbit hole is a big rabbit hole.
I think the hardest part for me in that sense was like letting go though, because that's another like skill set that you kind of have to learn as you're building your team and as being a leader is like, I know that if I do it, it's going to be done right and to my standards. And like, it takes a while to like build that trust. Is that something that you worry about at all with like scaling and bringing on an assistant and handing off some of the things that you are used to doing to somebody else?
Huge, because I am definitely a control freak by all of this. And because I have extraordinarily high expectations for myself and those around me. But my goal to grow the brokerage is if it works out and it's just women, that's kind of great. I don't mean for it to be. But my personal passion and goal is to help single women realize financial success, whether that is being a real estate agent and finding it that way, or if it's building wealth in purchasing their own real estate. So that is a huge goal. And so bringing on this person is going to be, little baby steps. But I think it's not hiring just anybody. That's for sure. That needs to be somebody who I see has potential, who has kind of the same values and, skill set and things like that I possess. And then just slowly doing it. So it'll start with, maybe showing properties. And then when it comes to listings, kind of offload that and pay that person, a pretty good little fee to input it into the MLS correctly, write those descriptions. A big pet peeve of mine is people who put photos in the MLS and they're like, you're in the kitchen and then the backyard and then you're in the primary bedroom and then you're in basement. You're
like, where am I?
Right. So just teaching those best practices in real estate so that person can then be successful in whatever way that looks for her. So baby steps.
I love that.
I love it. Little bit every day. Tell us, what's your biggest challenge that you're facing in your business right now, and how are you tackling it?
Honestly, my biggest challenge right now is that I'm really busy, which is an amazing thing. Like I have 6 listings coming in I have 3 this month, 3 next month, 5 home buyers I'm working with, 2 are under contract. And so my way of tackling it is to let go and accept the fact that I need some help and try to start bringing in this person, because I don't want to drop any balls during any of this process. And one thing that's super important to me is that every client says after we close, you made me feel so special. And I felt like I was the only person you were working with, even though I know I wasn't. And so I really want to make sure I continue to provide that level of service. But the challenge is trying to find somebody to help me navigate.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one thing, the hard part about this industry is like you get into these places where you get really busy. And then prospecting or like, reaching out for new clients, like kind of falls by the wayside. And so like finding that balance of like, how can I support like my current people like really, really well, while still being intentional and thoughtful about like building your business while you're busy. I mean, I think that's really difficult.
Right. But that person, I want to start planning for my summer client appreciation party. So now that person can start doing that, which helps continue to move forward with, hopefully future business too. So
yeah, totally.
I waited tables for a long time before getting into mortgages. So like I always use the analogy of having a completely full section, like you said, with 6 listings coming up, like you're busy, right? But it's like having a completely full section and then like walking outside on the street and like trying to wave people to come in, because naturally, you want it to stop, you're like, okay, I'm good. I'm busy. I can't really take on anybody else right now. But like, I don't know. I always like think of that analogy when I'm still trying to build business, but take care of the people that I have. But that's when, like you said, where it comes down to having a good team, having systems, setting expectations. I feel like, we can get really reactive in our industry and because we want to always answer the phone, and that's important. Communication is key, and quick responses are important. Do you focus on setting expectations with clients, in terms of response times, or do you try and be as, just on top of things as possible and sort it out as you go?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to work on that. I don't see that I'll ever be one of those people who take Sundays off. I just can't see that works for me, or me personally, right? I'm an Enneagram 2. And so like, I love to be needed and I want to help you however I can. I can't turn that off. I do try to communicate and let them know, hey, I'm doing showings from this time on Saturday from X to X. I won't be available to take you until here. And I do say sometimes I will turn off my notifications on my phone. Unless if we're in the middle of something, I'm going to be very available. But I am trying to find my personal life again and set that time aside, because I think it also makes me a better person if I'm spending time with my friends. And for the last 2 years when it was so busy, I canceled everything. I was constantly canceling on them because it was so busy, or I had to write a contract or something had to happen. But you can't say no to a client. You can't be like, oh, I'll do that contract tomorrow because I'm going to dinner. Well, because somebody else is going to get the house. So you have to be available to do things for them. So I'd like to set the expectation early. We do talk about communication style and what they need from me, which is part of my client experience. Do they want me to, if it's a listing, for example, do they want me to text them every single time we have a showing set up, or do they want a summary at the end of the day? Just things like that. So we can, if it's texting they want, or a phone call they want, or an email, whatever they enjoy. But yeah, I'm trying to find a little bit of personal time. Like, I've got to start working out again. That's important. I have a boyfriend now, which is weird because I'm 53. My man.
Ooh, now this is a topic I want to talk. Okay, we can talk about this later, but
that person is equally busy, and so sometimes it's kind of like we parallel work together on the computer, but at least we're spending time together. So
yeah.
Andrew and I have this joke that like we'll get into bed on like Thursday night, and I'll be like, "Hey, how was your week?" And because it is hard when you're, when there's two busy people to find time for yourself, right? And two, find time for the relationship. But I think, what was that Jim Rohn quote? Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I think, like, for me, that has been something like I always think about, like, if I focus on myself and like really make sure that I'm really like trying to be a better human, and like whether it's exercise or reading or whatever, I'm going to be a better parent, and I'm going to be a better like, person at work, or I'm all that stuff. But it's so hard when, especially because it's such a reactive business, to carve that time out.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know how people do it when they have little ones at home who have practices and all these things that you're trying to go to. My son's 21. And so I have him help me do things if I'm doing Popeyes or whatever, but I don't know how people do it all. So
I think it's a constant balancing act, and I don't think that you ever have it figured out. I think it's always trying to like you said, set time aside for personal things and try and set expectations with your clients. But then also at the same time, you do have to find that time to be reactive. But yeah, I think we kind of learned that, just over the past couple of years, where it's like, you're never actually going to be completely balanced and have it all figured out. It's just always kind of a work in progress.
Yeah, that makes me feel better. Y'all have that same.
Yeah, no. It's always, and I think also like recognizing that there's different time periods in your life, right? Like you're going to go through different seasons where you're going to be really focused on work, or you're going to be really focused on family, or you're going to be really focused on health. And so I think just recognizing that is important, and being okay with it, and just checking in with yourself. Like, am I focusing on the thing I need to focus on right now? But it's not going to look great in every part of your life all the time, because it literally can't,
And it's try to give yourself a little bit of grace. We're all just trying to do the best that we can with what we have. And we all just want to be, I don't know, the relationships are what's so important. And if it's with the children and your family and your friends and whoever that is, you got to have the love and be around that. And it's way more important at the end of the day.
What sort of things do you do to like grow or expand like your mindset, or any like personal development stuff? Like, do you have any good books that you have read lately, or any like podcasts that you really like listening to? What are some of those things that have really helped you?
I think not quite on like a personal growth mindset as of yet, because I kind of spent years doing that. I'm really focused on work, primarily because I'm 53, and I feel like I'm a little bit behind in the retirement game and things like that. So I really want to spend the next 5 years focusing in that area. So the books that I'm reading are like Creating Superfans, which I thought was amazing, because I grabbed it for a flight that I was going on a couple weeks ago, and I flew on Southwest, and we all know there was the Southwest debacle that my mother was. By the way, I'm adopted and found my bio family 4 years ago, so that's a whole other story. But my bio mom flew out for Christmas, and we were part of that whole debacle. But I still have a passion for Southwest, coming from Dallas, it was always the airline. And so I'm reading this book. He can't see it, but he puts the napkin down and it says, "When you fly Southwest, it's the best time of your life. We love you." And I thought he wrote it, handwrote it and put it down. And I thought, what a way to create a super fan, right? Like it's just, I digress on that. But yeah, my books and podcasts are work related.
Yeah.
Right now.
So let's go back. I know you said you were adopted. You found your bio family. You said 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, I like this question. So like, what skills did you learn growing up that you feel have helped you become a successful business person and real estate agent?
That's an interesting question. I just, based on my upbringing, which was not that fabulous, I was very independent. So by the time I was 10 years old, I was feeding myself, getting homework done, getting to school through carpool. So I was very independent and had to take care of myself for a very young age. And so I think that kind of parlays a little into like the entrepreneurial spirit. I've had several other businesses in my past life. I like being independent. I don't like being told what to do. But I'm able to survive in whatever the environment is. So I think that's parlayed into a variety of roles in my life.
What are you proudest of in your career?
Oh, in my career?
Or in your personal life, whatever comes to mind.
I think, there's probably two things. I think career-wise, it's that I made this happen. I reinvented myself because I was just tired of the corporate world and I didn't know what it was going to look like. I actually got into it when I was on my second marriage, which was a complete disaster. And it was very challenging because the more successful I got, the more angry he got. So it was stressful. But I was able to kind of pull myself out of it. And there are certain clients who know what I was going through during that time, and to have their support and love during all of that, and for them to now see that things are flourishing. And again, just being myself. And I'm not for everybody. I mean, I think that's the thing about real estate, right? Like some people want to work with me, some people might not want to. I don't necessarily always want to work with friends. And people always make their decisions for whatever reason. It's a personal choice, and everybody knows 5 realtors, so I don't get upset about that either. But I have believed in myself and stuck with it and persevered, and it's growing. And I think I'm going into the right track. And then I would say personally, go ahead.
No, I said that's huge.
Thanks. I love it. It's been phenomenal. And besides my son, who's an amazing human being, I did Kilimanjaro 6 years ago. So I was 47.
I want to talk to you about this.
Oh,
because
it's not on my bucket list. So I'll just start with that, Jen.
Okay.
So this is a dream of yours.
Uh-huh.
I'm here to shatter it, but then maybe you go ahead and go do it.
I want to hear. I mean, how did you decide to do it? Like, what was the experience? Tell me.
I volunteer with an organization called Rocky Mountain Microfinance. And they're a local nonprofit in the area, and they take business curious people and put them through like a 12-week boot camp so that they launch entrepreneurs. And it is a fabulous organization. And so one of the directors at the time, this was years ago, was a friend of mine, and sent this email saying, "We're going to do this fundraiser. Together we rise and climb." And it was, "Who wants to go and do Kilimanjaro?" And Mitchell, my son, was 15 at the time, and he was reading the email with me, and he was like, "I can do that." I'm like, "Really?" Okay. So I signed up for it, and then I found myself completely committed and didn't know what in the world I was doing. I enjoyed hiking a lot. Going to 19,000 feet was a whole different experience. I had never even done a 14er. So I just kind of jumped in. But I was the mama, the old lady of the group at like 46, 47. And then the other gals who were there were like 28, 30. And then my son Mitchell, and then one of his best friends at the time who were 15.
So they came and did it at 15. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I was impressed, right? I thought, so long story, it was an incredible journey. Going to Africa was unbelievable, life-changing, and also certainly for my son. getting through that mental mindset, it was so hard. And like summit night is just hard. And that's what everyone would say, but you don't know it until you're going through it. And it's dark and you go at 10 o'clock at night. And the one thing that's cool is that you see all of these different organizations or companies or whatever, like different groups, right? Different climbing groups. We all have our headlamps on and it's freezing cold and it's windy. And we're all just kind of traipsing along and just going one step in front of the other, pole pole, just slowly getting through it. And when it actually happens, it is like super incredible, super moving.
Was it worth it?
Since I've been.
Was it worth the work when you got up there?
It was. I think in the moment, it was kind of scary because my son has exercise-induced asthma, and so he was having an extraordinarily hard time breathing. His buddy would not drink enough water during the trek. He was dehydrated, so he had a double bloody nose. So the guides were like, "We got to get down." And I'm like, "I'm going to kill my children."
Yeah, yeah. Listen up.
Take a picture.
Oh,
so, I mean, it was worth it in that, like, it was a goal to set. It was very lofty. Again, it was never like a bucket list item. I did it because I wanted to raise money for the nonprofit. And my son was, down with the idea. And so I thought that was a great experience for us. And then, have like two soul sisters, Jess and Lee, out of that whole thing that we just will never, we'll always be connected after having that experience together. So I feel good that we accomplished it and did it.
That's really cool. How many days did you guys like hike up there? Like how long did it take?
We did the 5-day trek. And so there's different ones. So maybe if someone's going to do it, I might suggest you do the 7.
Gotcha.
Maybe go a little slower and acclimate, but
gotcha. Well, I think it's super cool. And one of the reasons that I like hiking so much is I think there's just so many parallels to life in general. And like when, shit gets hard and, you don't really know where you're at and you can't really see the summit and you don't know like what's on the other side and all these things, like you literally just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other and kind of experiencing what's around you. And so I think that's really cool. You guys did that, especially with your son. That's super awesome.
Yeah, we definitely bonded over that. But you're absolutely right. We weren't going to turn around. And that was part of my expectation of myself. There was times where I kind of wanted to quit, but I would never have forgiven myself if I did that. So just persevered, got to the top and made it happen.
We were just talking about that yesterday with like business too. It's almost like the most resilient, the one who's the most resilient wins. Because in this industry, like every transaction, it feels like you see something just a little bit different. And there's always something that you have to overcome. And like you said, when you're on 19,000 feet, I mean, that's insane. But when you're on a hard challenge like that, you come across obstacles and like something inside, that doubt starts to creep up. Like, yeah, maybe I should turn around. I kind of want to quit. It happens in business too, but you just have to keep saying, okay, be resilient, keep moving forward, get through the day, do your best. It's not always going to be perfect, but, go to sleep tonight, wake up tomorrow morning and go at it again, and hopefully you solve the problem. Anyway,
and also with that, you got to rely on your team and your tribe, right? Like you got to have that support system that's going to uplift you and get you through it. Whatever that challenge is, personal or finance or business, professionally.
Totally. And one thing I notice about just like human beings in general is that people go through different cycles at different times. So like if one person's down in a group, usually someone else is like feeling really good. And so like you just using each other to like, if someone's like, having a rough day, to like build that other person up. And then probably tomorrow you're going to feel like crap. And then they're going to have to be, but I do think that's really important. And I think one of the meanings of just life in general is like being in connection with other people and making sure that you're really supporting each other through whatever experience you're going through.
100%. We need each other. Can't be just an island out there.
Yeah, no, it's true. Let's talk a little bit about the Colorado market here, shift gears. And
I thought you were going to talk about the Kilimanjaro market,
no,
but
yeah,
keep
well,
going.
No, we can talk about that too. It's been a really interesting few months for real estate and for mortgages. I feel like the changes in the market are happening a lot, sooner than they have in the past. It's March 2023 right now. What are you seeing out there? I have a lot of clients ask me like, hey, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? How would you answer that question? Hey, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Start there.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question you always get, right? Like, how's the market? Well, it depends.
Right.
Depends if you're a buyer or if you're a seller or you're an investor. That I can't just answer the question. Yes. I mean, after November and December, there was the lull. Still a seller's market, just based on the fact that we don't have the inventory levels. So they still have the upper hand, but it was definitely slow. So that was the time for the buyers to get concessions and go under asking and things like that, which is not the case anymore. And I remember like 3 weeks ago with one of my clients, and I was going to submit an offer, and they're like, oh, we already have 4. I was like, no. I mean, I have my winning strategies. I know how to compete in the multiple offer situation. But at least it's not crazy now I'm seeing 3, 4, 5 offers, maybe 5 to 15,000 over. I've heard in some of my groups there's some that are going for 50, over, but we're kind of back into it. There's always going to be real estate. People are going to have life changes, and it's not going to necessarily preclude a buyer from buying a home based on an interest rate if they are having children and need a bigger space. People are still going to sell if they got a job transfer or there's a death in the family. I mean, things are still going to keep happening. And so still, kind of that seller's market. I'm definitely seeing homes that are over the $1 million range too. There's not a lot of inventory in the 1 million to 1.5. So those are starting to have some multiple offer situations also. I would just say, make sure you're working with the right agent for you. Your agent is an extension of you. And so personality wise, you need to make sure you guys click. That person is going to be advocating for you. Do they have the same style, communication style? Are they really aggressive? I'm not a super aggressive person. I'm a good advocate. And I fight for my clients, but I'm not rude or disrespectful or anything like that. I'm not a pit bull. But if that's kind of your style, that's the kind of agent you want. You need to make sure you find that person. And I just would suggest you interview people and try to have that advocate who's on your side, whether you're a buyer or a seller, who's going to meet your needs and help you accomplish your real estate goal, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I think that's that's good advice. And I think that's a good kind of breakdown and analysis of what's going on in the market. I'm seeing the exact same thing. There was that little window there where it was still a seller's market, like you said, but buyers had a little bit more leverage.
Right.
And yeah, it feels like just recently, that's gone away because there's still been the inventory shortage. One of the things that inflation has caused, yes, it's increased interest rates, but it's also increased rent. I'm talking to a lot of tenants where their landlord has come back to them and either hiked their rent up substantially because everybody's feeling, the squeeze of inflation, or they're moving back in. I've had a few situations like that where the landlord is kicking the tenants out and moving back in because they've got a fixed rate mortgage on that property, which is probably somewhere in, the 3% range. So it's good debt if you took that debt out when rates were at a really low spot. Are there any up and coming areas that you might recommend for buyers looking to buy?
Yeah, I think, there's still kind of the west side, like Denver West area, Barnum-ish. And then a really great central area in Denver is kind of that Montclair area, like Quebec and 11th. You're kind of close to Stanley Marketplace. You're also close to Lowry and like 5 minutes away from Cherry Creek. There's great detached homes there for under $450. And I think, if you're renting, I just really think it's so important to have the conversation with a lender such as yourself. You might still be under the impression that you have to have 20% down, or you might just feel like there is not a way for me to compete or get into this market. And I just say, have the conversation because you might be surprised. And why in the world are you beholden to a landlord who can raise your rate at any time, raise your rent, and you're not paying yourself for that? It's not your built-in piggy bank when you can start, having your own property. So when we've seen that, happen too with somebody who has a really low budget, but we found them a home. And so you have to start somewhere. Just start is what I want to say to buyers. You might be completely surprised on what you can actually afford and then start getting into.
Yeah. And interest rate, the interest rate that you get most likely isn't going to be a long-term thing. If there's no prepayment penalties on most mortgage loans, you can refinance into a lower rate, marry the house, date the rate.
Right. Well, and we're still continuing. I mean, Colorado, we're fortunate. I just saw some stats earlier this week that we're continuing to appreciate. It's not at that 20% that we had those last 2 years, but we're at 9%. And so if you look at that and you're getting some equity every year, you're building that up. And then, maybe in 2 years, you can pull a little bit of that out and then buy your next property with it. So we're not upside down. We're not having multiple foreclosures. I think they had like 2 in January, like in Colorado. I mean, it's not, people have so much equity in their home. And so they're aware of what's happening. If they need to sell, they can go ahead and sell. So there's not this market crash and things like that people are talking about. But
yeah. And the guidelines have been so strict since the crash in 08, 09. Everyone who's gotten a loan over the past, 13, 14 years has been, really looked at. And I'm trying to think of the word, but it's been, the guidelines tightened up. So like you've had to be very well qualified in order to get approved for a mortgage. So that's another thing too, that as rates have jumped up, buyers are still able to make their payments because they were in a good spot to start with.
Right.
Okay, Leslie, make us cool again. So one thing we're trying to do is go to new places to eat. So in the Wash Park area, give me like 2 of your favorite restaurants.
Oh my gosh. Well, Nituyo, next word is Tuyo. They are on University across the street from Bonnie Bray Liquor and Bonnie Bray Ice Cream.
Okay.
They're also owned by the same people who own Adelitas. They have a Littleton location and then one on Louisiana Broadway. Fabulous food. Oh my gosh. And you have to sit at the bar. The bartenders are amazing.
Okay.
They have yummy tequila drinks. And then John loves mezcal. So they have a mezcal tasting on Wednesday, which lots of people flock for that.
Okay.
That is fantastic. And then there is Mr. Oso. It's on the West Wash Park.
Okay.
Which I thought at some point was Asian food, but it's not. It's Mexican food. Oh my gosh, I have a trend.
It's okay. So do we. So you're in good company. My favorite thing to do I hate cooking, by the way. It's like, I'm not good at it, nor do I care to be good at it. It's like this joke between, like, I would put a piece of meat on like a tray without any seasoning and just eat it and be fine because I just know that I have to eat the food. And yeah, it's like not going to change.
And I season food.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that something? Anyway, so I don't know where I was going. Oh, I do know where I was going with this. So what I try to do throughout the week is like create new, like everything is basically like Mexican food, but
it's like tacos. It's taco salad. It's soft tacos, hard tacos, nachos. We'll throw that in there every now and again.
Enchiladas. You want an enchilada today?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And nachos are just like a crushed taco anyway, right? Like it's
exactly right.
It's my major downfall and something I will not be remembered for. But you know what? Everyone gets fed in my house, and
that's the important thing.
Yay. Okay. Well, this is great. And so, surprise last question I have for you. If you could write a book on anything, what would it be on?
Well, so I'm already kind of contemplating writing a book. So
love it.
But I would be writing it with my mom, my bio sister, so my bio mom and bio sister, the 3 of us, because we had very interesting lives. They were all different on how each of us were raised. Mm-hmm. We all kind of share the same thread of like not being good enough, never feeling good enough, and love. And so I think I don't know if it's we think it's an interesting topic. And so we are, how you overcome that, right? Because we are 3 very strong, independent, successful women. So it's been an interesting journey for sure.
I love it. Well, I would certainly read it
too. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think you should do it.
Quick question about that though. When you found your bio family, like, and your bio sister, like, did y'all click right away? Like, was there that sibling connection?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I found them, and it's this whole story on how that came together. And I didn't know. And I just want to add this, because if there's anybody who's watching who's an adoptee, I think that we are a different group. We grow up feeling like we don't belong. We always are wondering, we're at a grocery store looking, that person kind of looks like me. You're always never feeling like you quite fit in. And then I had some preconceived ideas for a long time. Like, I'm missing out. Maybe my bio mom is Mrs. Cleaver. And so there's cookies every day when you come home from school. Like, I was thinking this is what was happening. Not happening at all. But I finally, I think, gotten the point in my life where it was timing that really allowed for it to all happen. And my sister would say the same thing, because if I had found her even just 2 years prior, she would not have been receptive or open to me coming into her life. So it was interesting how it all kind of came about. I flew out to Tulsa to go meet them. And it was great. It was a great experience learning from my mom. And then, yes, so when my sister came over, we hugged each other, and we both swear there was like this electrical spark between our hearts. Like, we connected immediately. And she's one of my dearest, bestest friends, and we cannot imagine life without one another at this point. But it's been really good. And I had to just get to the point where I had zero expectations. Like, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And I'd heard horror stories, or sad stories, I should say, from some people who found their adopt or bio family and they didn't want anything to do with them. And I heard others where, the bio mom wrote a letter on that child's birthday every single year for 42 years. So mine was not that. It was a wonderful experience, but my mother does not remember birthdays. So mine came and went on March 1st, and I am okay. I realize now that that's just not who she is. She has many other wonderful qualities.
Well, that's really cool, Leslie.
Experience though. And yeah, great that you found each other and were able to reconnect and like build a relationship.
It's been wonderful. I know not everyone's life is going to be like, we are very fortunate. We are very aware that what we have is special, and we just jumped right in, and we see each other frequently, talk all the time. They were all here for Christmas. We just all get along really well. So
that's awesome.
It is good.
Well, where can our listeners find you online?
Find me online. Instagram is one of my favorite places to hang, and that's at Leslie Loves Denver. And then the website is larkrealtygroup.com. Oh, and lark, I do get that question. The lark bunting is the Colorado state bird, and it's a ground dwelling bird. And so that is where the name came from.
Very cool.
I like it.
Thank you.
I lark it. Get it?
What you did there.
That's good, because I send things to my marketing team and I say, can you larkify this? Please make it look amazing with all my branding colors.
Love it.
Like that a lot.
Babe, you can't steal my joke.
All right.
That's going to go on all day.
All I have. It is.
And larking this taco.
Well, Leslie, thanks for joining us today. And everyone, we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks, Ben and Andrew. Thank you
For listening.